Recording. All right. Hey everyone, my name is Matt Miner, and I'm a field director for the Shaniyat Chowdhury 2020 congressional campaign. I'm also one of Shan's advisors on animal welfare, animal rights issues, and I convinced him to, well, I didn't have to convince him very hard, but I talked to him about having this town hall because Shan believes in a lot of the same things with animals that I do. I've been an activist for about 20 years. I've worked on a variety of issues. I'm the vice president and co-founder of Zion's Mission Animal Rescue. We're focused on pit bulls and guinea pigs here in Queens. I'm the writer of the animal activist comic books, The Liberator, and the 3 sequel series. And I started political campaigns back in the 1990s and have been, every election cycle I find someone or something that I believe in and kind of go for it. So that is my story, and why I talked to Shan about like, hey, what are your views on animals and the earth and how it all connects, and found that on top of us having a lot of stuff in common with our politics on people, human rights, and economic rights, racial justice, Shan and I also connected on animals and the environment. And so I would like to segue into Shan and have him talk about his background. I know he was a Marine for a while. He worked with AOC, and have him kind of talk to people about that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Matt. Thank you for setting this up. So hello, everyone, again, and my name is Shan Chowdhury. I'm running for Congress in New York's 5th Congressional District. That includes Jamaica, the Rockaways, and parts of Nassau County. And as someone who's a product of public education, public housing, I'm just sick and tired of working people being left outside of the democratic process. And what really hit me was, even though I served 6 years in the Marines, I worked in New York State Assembly, I've worked for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but what really drove me to organizing was just the center of the injustice that happens around climate change. I was a first responder out to the Rockaways when Hurricane Sandy hit our district. And when I went out there, I realized, wow, who would have thought that, a hurricane of this magnitude would actually hit the shores of New York City? Never in a million years I thought this was possible. And I think it was an awakening call for so many people, especially working class people who have lost our homes, who are still recovering from this. So I centered my focus in organizing energy around climate change and just trying to bring more awareness about what we could do collectively within our own communities, regarding our health, regarding what we could do around going away from fossil fuels to more eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, Green New Deal economy that I would like to talk about, and that we'll segue into later on. But eventually, when I did all that stuff, I got involved in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's campaign in 2018, who is a big proponent for the Green New Deal. And I was in a fortunate enough position to be the initial research phases of this Green New Deal package. And when we look at it, it's huge, right? It's really huge. And we always get this pushback, well, how can we pay for it? Or, it's not realistic, which is not necessarily the case, because it is in fact realistic. It is possible, but we know that there are a lot of big industries that we could, get into, fossil fuel industries, big agriculture industries, who are, funneling money into our government to make sure that policies are favoring in their, on their side, and not with the people of, not with everyday working people. So Green New Deal itself, we could talk about some of the things, but my biggest thing with the Green New Deal is how we focus on it agriculturally. And when we talk about animal welfare and animal rights, A lot of it has to do with the mass production of, of animals and meat production in this country. We produce the most meat of any country. I think that if I'm not mistaken, maybe we spend about, I think 6 billion animals per year are being slaughtered on farms that are mainly under the profiteering system of companies like Dow, Meyer, Monsanto, you name it, right? DuPont. And these are the big players here. And what they do is that they're in competition with small farmers, with family farmers who are, who are trying to make a livings, who are trying to like really get back to the communities with fresh fruits, fresh produce. But it's damn near impossible when you have big agriculture who are playing a big role in mass production of not just meat, but also things like corn and rice that are infested with pesticides, that also plays a role in climate change, right? And we talk about the mass production of meat. We have cows, I guess, who produce gas, right? Like methane and nitrous oxide that are also going into our air. Essentially that, we're breathing it in, and also it's killing our planet. So, we could talk more about what are the solutions around that when it comes to big agriculture, because I believe that in order for us to really, in order for us to actually win over people in other parts of the country who are more concerned about how to make money off their, the farming industry, I think that in terms of like looking at the agriculture, we can really change their minds about, taking away production from like meat. We don't need to necessarily produce meat. So in that case, we can actually protect the rights of animals. We can make sure that animal welfare is being protected. But we could definitely talk about that. So that's pretty much introduction how I got involved in AOC's campaign, and got a lot more to talk about. So back to you, Matt.
Cool. And since we're down here in the southern tip of Queens and we got clobbered with Hurricane Sandy, like you were talking about, I think there's kind of an impetus for people in this community that remember Sandy. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, to get behind somebody who champions, radical environmental policies. I mean, it's not even radical, but you know what I mean. Something that puts forth, big change. So I think it's really cool that you were, one of the first people working on the Green New Deal. I think it's, right now we're in the middle of this coronavirus mess. It's killing people and killing predominantly poor people, people of color, and it's being tracked back to a lot of it how us as a human people treat animals, and so I think it's really really cool to have a candidate for Congress who is working on this. And to anyone listening, I forgot to let you know how we'll be doing the Q&A. If you hit chat and then instead of chatting to everyone, you pick my name and submit questions there, and I will see them. And that's how we'll do the moderated Q&A part if people have questions. So let's talk about your proposals on animals. I know there were 3 of them that you wanted to tackle right now. And I've been talking to other congressional candidates, and there are 9 others that I've been talking to who want to come together like a Voltron for animals, or a Megazord, and kind of put forth this policy that would make big changes for animals' lives. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, Shan?
Yeah. So, when we look at animals, we have to really change the way we think about these beings. We have to look at them as just other nations, right? You know how we look at other continents, other countries throughout the world. We need to equally look at animals who are just as unique, if not more unique than humans, because there's certain things that we're not capable of that they are. And there is so much that we don't know about animals. So I think we need to have more respect when regarding animals and how we treat them, how we look at them, and how we are coexisting with them. So in America, especially, I think that we need to do three things. Any crime against animals or animal companions are not considered felonies. So we don't necessarily want to promote incarceration of people, but we do want to discourage people from harming animals. And I think that if we do that, we'll definitely see, a rescinding amount of crime against especially animal cruelty. Matt does great work already saving animals from broken homes. And we want to see less of that. We want to make sure that animals are being respected just as much as our neighbors. Secondly, I want to make sure that we do have a registry system where, if someone who does commit harm on another animal, that it is found in a system, especially when they go off to maybe go, look for a job or wherever, especially around that includes animals, especially the welfare of animals. People should be, in acknowledgement about this person's history with animals and how they dealt with them. And then last thing I want to do is also promote the status of animals from pets to companions. And I think this is really important because what this does is that, when we look at pets, the term pets, it just acknowledges as property, right? So when we look at property, anyone who commits harm, let's say on a cat or a dog, that can be considered a property crime, which is essentially the same as just breaking your own window. It's a property crime, right? And I think that really undermines how severe how severe this crime is. So we need to promote the status of pets to companions, so that way they have just as equal rights as human beings, and deservingly so, because animals are just as intellectual. They do feel, they have emotions, and that we as humans, we necessarily need to really think about how that really impacts their well-being. So it does matter, So I think that that's something we definitely need to do going forward.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, Sean and I have been working on these things together, and it's something that several members of Congress are interested in. So, I'm really hopeful that we can put Sean into Congress. He's up against a longtime incumbent, an establishment Democrat, if there ever was one. He's been in for 21 or 22 years or something. Sean, how many? Way too many.
Yeah, like 20, 21, 22 years now at this point.
Yeah, and this is a guy who, he doesn't make a move unless an opinion poll tells him to, or unless somebody higher than him in Congress tells him to. So he just doesn't. There were children in cages, locked up by the Trump administration, families torn apart, and I was begging him. He answers his own messages on Facebook. I was begging him to support impeachment hearings, and he wouldn't even go that far. He literally told me the opinion polls weren't there. And I said, you know what? You don't need an opinion poll to do what's right. And that's what I really like about Sean, because he's willing to do what's right, even if it's not popular. Talking about animals in the middle of the coronavirus, probably, that's why we have, a dozen people here instead of 100. And I really appreciate everyone being here, because there is a lot going on in the world right now. But it all kind of circles back, how we treat animals and how we treat the planet is how we're getting it in return. And it's good to have candidates who understand that. Talk a little more about the nationwide database that you brought up, Sean. So that would be a database, say for rescues. They could add that. They could look up an adopter or something, right? And find out.
Right. Yeah. So, a lot of the good work that Matt does is that, he takes in animals who have been harmed and, tries to really help them rehabilitate and get them back on their feet before, they send them off back into another home. So it's really good for groups like animal rescues to know who they're giving off the animals to. They want to make sure that animal companions are in the right hands of other people who will, help really be cohabitants with animals, make sure that the right hand, right companionship, so that way we don't necessarily continue to traumatize animals who've already been through enough. So I think that's really big. We kind of want to look at it as a way where we're not, we're not using it to incarcerate people. That's something that we want to, try to like really decimate, because we want to make sure people don't go to jail, but we do want to make sure that people are held accountable, but also know that other people should be aware about where our animals are going to, whose homes that they're living in, because putting animals in an environment where it's not healthy for them, it's not it's also painful for them, well-being of animals. It's all it creates an environment where it's toxic and not healthy. So I think that that's one thing that the registry is really good to have for. So yeah.
Cool. So it looks like we're getting done a little sooner than planned. Shan's campaign has kind of, I'm a field director, but we don't really have a lot of field work right now because we can't go knock doors, we can't have in-person events, we can't go do fundraisers or rallies because of the coronavirus. We want everyone to be healthy and safe. So Shan's campaign has moved into more of a mutual aid and outreach type organization. Shan's been doing a lot of fundraising and buying groceries for people and bringing people who have been laid off, families who really need the help, food and medicine and stuff like that. Shan, do you want to talk a little about that, since we have a few minutes?
Yeah, for sure. So our campaign has definitely transitioned from more of a grassroots work on the streets to more mutual aid effort, meaning that we are collecting donations and items and groceries from throughout, not just our district, but throughout the state, throughout the country. Folks are sending stuff to us at our 6 drop-off locations. So we do have sites in the Rockaways, out in Jamaica, and even Long Island. So every Monday, what we do is, we do 2 different types of jobs. The first job is that every Monday, once we get in all of our shipments, we do a massive drive. So we have a Google Doc form that people fill out. So if they are in need of items and toiletries, they can put in the request. That includes their name, address, phone number, so we can touch base with them. And on the Mondays, we go out there and we just deliver everything that we have ready to go out that day. Our second job is really more everyday effort. So when we do need, if there are folks who do need stuff urgently, we respond to it as quickly as possible. I've been going out there, making sure that folks are getting food, making sure that they're okay. I think a mental health check-in is always great to do, because being quarantined causes so much depression, anxiety, being isolated away from the world. And this is the first time for a lot of folks who are, not necessarily introverts, right? I think for introverts, it's people are able to really find a way to really simulate their environment. But for so many other people who are so used to, going out there and working their 9-to-5s and going out there and being friends and family, they're not able to do that anymore. Now they're just by themselves. And I think that that's another aspect we do touch upon. So we do this every day when it's needed. And then come Mondays, we do our drop-offs. So that's what we've been doing, making sure that every neighbor that their needs are met. So, we try to make sure, and this is all coming from the campaign. We want to make sure that folks who need like financial assistance don't necessarily need to pay for groceries. So that way they can save the money for emergencies. I think that's really, really important. So, and I just want to backtrack, Matt. There's one more thing about about the environment and about the Green New Deal. I want to touch base again on small farmers, right? I think that how we really change the narrative, how we push the country forward around climate change is, for a lot of folks who live in more rural and urban areas, neighborhoods like mine, for example, in South Jamaica houses. I've been part of the South Jamaica Resident Green Committee where we started our own community farm. And when we have community farms, we're able to give out fresh produce and fruits and vegetables to all our neighbors for free. Because when we have a mass overproduction of the meat industry, it's because and one reason is because of this food deserts. So when we have food deserts, people are very limited with options in terms of things that they eat.
Right.
So if we were able to produce more quality, more sustainable agriculture, even if in our own communities, we'll see more people actually wanting to live a healthier lifestyle. We don't necessarily need to eat meat, and I think that's a great way to promote that. So we really need to, again, go away. Once we do we need to fight big agriculture. That's what's getting in the way right now.
Yeah.
We fight them. We could definitely incentivize small farmers, give them tax incentives, and also give them parity wages. So, small farmers don't live on wages. They really count on big companies like Monsanto to pay them for the production. So it does take away their livability, it takes away from their wages. And I think that we need to give the power to small farmers who could be able to produce fruits and veggies, so that way we could give back to the community at a low cost, at a quality initiative. So I think that once we do that, we could definitely see a change in getting away from big farming, big agriculture, and actually produce things within our own neighborhoods. I think we could see things go a long way. So I just want to touch base on that. So that's all I have to say.
No, yeah. I mean, I think that's really important. Our government is so in bed with these huge multinational corporations that control every facet of our lives, including our food. They're so in bed with them that you see all these tax breaks being given to farmers if they'll produce X, Y, or Z, and it all ties back to meat production. And it's like they're getting all these incentives for pushing meat, and it's ridiculous when you look at how much an animal eats in terms of grain and corn and soy in order to make 1 pound of beef. It's like I don't even.
Right. And I don't think
edible plants they have to eat to get there, and I think it's just obscene the amount of.
Right. And like on top of that, I don't think we as humans, we really understand the true nature of what happens on these farms where animals are being convoluted in small spaces, tight spaces. They're not able to really breathe. They're not able to be mobile, and they kind of lose sight of the natural instincts when they're so packed up in tight spaces, and they are being harmed. There's really barely any oversight, so when they're being slaughtered afterwards, unjustly slaughtered, we as consumers are eating them. And it's, I think that especially what's going on, people are blaming the fresh water markets in Wuhan for reopening, right? But we've been doing this for decades, essentially the same thing. And, we don't know what people don't know what they're eating. And I think that if we do put a microscope on that and understand that how we treat animals could definitely change the way we, do consume. It could change the way we are, are heavily relying on, the food economy to really give us something to, live on. I think that we need to really put a spotlight on that and, change a lot of minds, especially in rural America, and especially in the Midwest. A lot of folks who are against things like the Green New Deal, they could care less about the climate, right? They could care less about climate change, because what does it mean for them? What does it mean for their pockets? And that's what a lot of Republicans care about. It's like, what does the Green New Deal mean for the profits? So transitioning to give small farmers, more wages, but also more resources to produce things more adequately for things like for produce, by helping them invest in the economy will really take away from the power of the meat industry that is today. So
Yeah, I mean, and I think you made a really good point. it's not China's meat industry that brought us the coronavirus. I mean, it may have been. Who really knows? They're now tracing it back to these wet markets where they slaughter, dogs and cats and wild animals on site, which is tremendously disgusting in my view. But we do extremely very very similar things here, and it's not China. It's the way we humans view animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great, Sean. And thanks for talking a little bit about the mutual aid efforts. I think that's something, since coronavirus and is on everyone's mind right now. I think that's, it's important that people know that you're doing that.
Yeah.
What kind of success have you had? We actually haven't talked recently, and I know that you mentioned some numbers and how much has been donated and how much has been given out to people in need during this crisis. So what has the campaign done in the last week and a half, or however long it's been since this started? Sean, are you muted?
Yeah, I am. I was. So as I was saying, how, I think we're going into week 2 now, and we've already we've already raised $10,000 from donations since we started this effort. So all of our donations from March and now even April are going to our mutual aid efforts. Yeah. We've already been able to help 70 families. These are big families too, so there's a lot of mouths to feed. Right. But people are really appreciative. On average, on a day we probably spend about $500 on groceries. That's able to feed a good amount of people. So yeah, I mean, all these every little dollar counts. It's been really helping us in making sure that families are not left hungry. There's a family who was in urgent need because they haven't had gas or heat the last couple of days, and they just needed a few things. So we're able to respond right away, and the feedback that we get has been tremendous. People have been reaching out to us and just are really thankful, and I think that it just goes to show it's just not our campaign, but the community coming together throughout the borough, throughout the city. It shows a true testament about how we're able to really combat the oppression of capitalism, because that's what it comes down to essentially at the end of the day, is how exploitive that the system has been. Considering how this administration has known about the possibility of coronavirus hitting the U.S. for months, and they've done nothing about it, because they are more worried about making sure that the profits of their donors, of corporate Wall Street are met first before the well-being of people. But it's the people that have come together collectively. And in the 21st century, we can still be communal, and I think that's amazing. So again, it's a true testament to the people power movement coming together, especially in a time of crisis. So we definitely need to just reprioritize. I think after this pandemic, however long it lasts, we definitely need to really reassess about the direction that this country needs to go to. So. Yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, I've been really impressed seeing the different congressional campaigns that are doing this, and it's not even just Congress. Momita, is she running for assembly?
She's running for district leader.
District leader. I mean, there's all kinds of progressive candidates, Bernie Sanders style candidates who are coming together and they're putting in the work. They're not just talking, they're actually out there wearing masks and gloves and delivering food to people who need it. I mean, I think it's amazing. I guess we should move to some questions then, Sean. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. And anyone who still has questions to submit, because there haven't been a lot, go ahead and message those to me directly, please. All right, so one question: with everything going on in our world due to the pandemic, what do you need the most from people who want to support the campaign? And how can people get involved and help propel the campaign?
Yeah.
I have some thoughts. I'll let you go.
All right, sure. So, we are also holding phone banks. We have folks who've already been doing it for a week now. So what we do is when we make these phone calls, we want to prioritize the well-being of folks who are on the other end of the line. So we do a wellness check, making sure that they're okay, mentally, but also making sure that materially they have everything that they need to really get through, even if it's the next 24 to 48 hours. That's what people are thinking about right now, is that how can they get through the next day? And at the same time, they know who's calling them. So we are able to tell them, hey, this is so-and-so calling from Sean's campaign. We just want to check in on you, right? And when people realize that there are people they might have never met before are calling in, it makes their day. It really makes their day. So it not only does promote the campaign, but it also just shows that what this campaign is about is making sure that it's people first. This is what this campaign is about, because I don't think our opponent's campaigns do the same thing. We are trying to meet people where they are at, making sure that they come first. So that's what we've been doing. If people do want to get involved in phone banking, it's all you got to do is email info@shan2020.com, and someone from our team will reach out to you and help you onboard you. But it's really easy to do. We also are setting up a texting operation. So if you're uncomfortable talking on the phone, it's totally fine. We want to make sure that we're able to accommodate to everyone's needs. We do text banking. So essentially the same thing. Instead of phone call, you send out massive text to folks doing the same thing. So
That's cool. And so I had some thoughts on that too, because we need money. I mean, it's the sad reality. We had a really good ground game. We had a great field operation, especially from what I saw from volunteers in the Rockaways. We were hitting doors 2 to 3 times a week. And we were killing it. And then coronavirus hit, and we barely got our signatures to get on the ballot. And now we have stacks of posters and literature and all this stuff that the campaign spent money on, and we have to change everything. We have to change to a phone banking operation and a texting operation. So, I want Sean to win, because I want to see, on top of all the other things that I love Sean for, like his views on racism. I mean, who else is out there saying that they support reparations? I do. Sean does. So on top of that, he has these views on animals that really touch home for me. So I want to see him win. And right now, with the mutual aid going on, we need donations, and that's at shan2020.com too. That's SHAN2020.com. And you said we need volunteers for the phone banks. Let's see, what else was there, Sean?
Yeah, not only do we need volunteers, but if you are able to even donate items, in donating items to any of our drop-off sites. So on our website, on shan2020.com, we do have a coronavirus tab. Essentially just giving out information about the crisis, current situation, and giving more information about a mutual aid effort. So if it'll show a donation link, it'll show you a sign up link to volunteer. So there's plenty of information over there. In the meantime, we just need folks, because we're so quarantined right now. We are very limited in terms of just doing campaign work. So making phone calls is definitely the best way to really get involved. And if you're someone who has a car, who has gloves and a mask and are healthy, come out on Mondays where we do our massive drives. So that way because we do have a huge list, so we could definitely spread the work, breaking up, going to different parts of the district, and help bring items and stuff to families who really need them.
And just to clarify, you're not going into anyone's house or having anything fun.
Yeah.
You're putting the groceries down and they're coming and picking them up, right?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. So how it works in real time is that once we bring the items to someone, we give them a call, let them know that we've arrived. And we never, even if they offer, we never go enter anyone else's house, just, for the safety of theirs and ours as well. So as soon as we make a phone call, we leave it on the doorstep, and we, go back to our car and we wait for them to come out, make sure that they are able to pick up the groceries. Sometimes people, may not be home for whatever reason, or, they may be maybe in the bathroom. So if you don't hear back from them, just give it a couple minutes. But as long as they are able to pick up the phone, that's all that matters, and that they can just pick it up from the doorstep. So.
All right, so let's go to a couple more questions. Will you be setting up regular touch bases via Zoom with your community members to stay in front of people during COVID?
Yeah, so that's essentially what the phone banking has been used for. But what's really challenging right now, because of the quarantine situation, us not being to door knock, is not being able to really hyper localize the people that we need to do outreach to, especially to folks who are not really on social media, like our senior citizens. And I think that, our campaign that's really inclusive. So our next effort now is trying to figure out what we could do going forward to be able to include people who don't know about this mutual aid effort, making sure that they know about this, making sure that we are able to really help them. So I think that we're trying to really figure that out digitally, but also for folks who are not used to things like Zoom, we're trying to find multiple ways of making sure that everyone is included in this. So we do want to we don't know how long this is going to last for. We're learning more and more on the go every day about what we can do as a campaign to not just really utilize it as something around electoral politics, but also just utilizing it in a way of just bringing community together. And that's what's really the most important thing about this. So we're trying to figure that out. If anyone has any ideas of what else we can do, it'd be great.
Well, I have something on that, because we are setting up a postcard operation where we're going to be handwriting postcards to people in the community. So to let them know about Shan and the campaign and the mutual aid effort and all that. So, and also to try and recruit phone bankers. So we're working on that now. The design for the postcard is in the works. So that'll be happening soon. So that is a way to older people online.
Yeah, the cool thing about the postcards is that we've done it on AOC's campaign, is that they're handwritten by by us. So it's really personable, and it's really different from just your regular campaign mailer. People are definitely going to read it. And when they see that it's really personal, that's for them, they are going to be really thankful and are going to be paying attention to the campaign. So I think it's pretty cool that we're going to be doing this. And we're going to be doing this from the comfort of our own homes. And I think that's also terrific. So.
Yeah, I mean, finally, political activism you can do in your sweats on the couch, right?
Yeah.
I sent a lot of postcards for Bernie Sanders, let me tell you. All right, and then a couple more questions. How you keep making your voice heard in these times where you can't knock doors? I think we pretty much went over that. Was there anything else you think of?
Yeah, I mean, I think that right now a lot of local groups are also trying to shifting digitally. So, we are trying to partner up with other local organizations or even religious institutions who are doing things digitally to really bring more awareness about the mutual aid effort. So social media has been powerful. It's been really insane seeing how people are finding about this operation, not just within our own network, but just by word of mouth, has been really helpful. So if you just continue to spread the word, it would go such a long way.
Yeah. And then how are you measuring the success of your campaign at this point? There's no polls, there's no chance.
Yeah.
There's no chance of a debate just because of health and safety. What are we doing?
Yeah. So
one of the questions.
I love the questions. When the time is right, I do want to debate Gregory Meeks. But I think that, right now our focus should be on making sure that people are just able to get by right now for the next 24 to 48 hours. The furthest things from people's minds right now are the elections. But I'm just really proud of how far we've come. From day one, I remember we started out with $0 in the bank. To this date, we're probably close to $60,000 now. And just really showing that people power movement, people power grassroots campaigns can really do this. We've overcome so many obstacles, and people are always going to, doubt, right? People are always going to doubt the viability of any grassroots campaign, because we are taking on not just a powerful incumbent who's been there for 20 plus years, but it's really the institutions that he's representing. The money that he's receiving from big banks, from Wall Street, that's keeping him in power. So there's always going to be political pundits who don't think this is possible, but we've seen that throughout the country that is possible. People come together who really believe in the movement, who believe in the message of just bringing people together to overcome any obstacle. And we've done it throughout the campaign. We've overcome so many obstacles to get to where we are today. And there's, it's not going to be perfect. If it was perfect, then yeah, it would be easy, but that's not the case. We do embrace these challenges because that's what makes us strong in the end. So I am really happy with the way we've actually done things. We've come so far, and every day it's a learning experience for all of us, including myself as a candidate. I learn, more things about myself, about my team every day. And we still have about 3 months until Election Day. And I know that as we get closer to Election Day, we are gonna really turn some heads. I really believe that we can do this. I've always been an optimist, even on AOC's campaign. From day one, as a volunteer, I always thought we could win. There's never been a doubt in my mind that we can win. But there are folks who just didn't think it was possible. But when you really do feel something in the air of change, and when you believe that you could overcome any adversity, you can win this. So I believe that we are going to win this.
I believe the same thing. I mean, when I met you, just for people here, I met Sean. He actually knocked on my door for the Tiffany Caban campaign, and that's how I met him and got involved with Sean. And he stopped because he saw the Bernie signs, and that's the only reason he stopped it anywhere in Broad Channel, because our area is traditionally very Trumpy and conservative. But I had 5 or 6 Bernie signs up, and he stopped by. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe you're going to win too, Sean. We're definitely facing some new challenges, not a doubt about it. And to answer that person's question, if you don't mind me answering, right now I'm measuring the success of the campaign in lives saved and people helped, honestly, because I mean, right now, the campaign is less about a campaign and more about, helping people. And I'm very proud of you going out there and risking yourself to help people, honestly. I know you're being extremely careful and it's not really a risk, but still. And then I guess one last question. It's about the debate. It's a follow-up. Would a debate happen online if necessary?
I thought about that. I thought about that, and I'm really open to it. I think when it comes, so how these debates work is that someone needs to sponsor them. Some group organization needs to sponsor the debates. So if there was a group who's willing to sponsor it and we put enough pressure on Meeks, listen, Meeks is gonna ignore us as much as possible because he doesn't want to bring us any attention. That means he does take it seriously, and we know that low key he does take it seriously. Oh, yeah. But if he acknowledges, by him accepting a challenge to a debate, acknowledges that we are the real deal, and we are the real deal. But now it's really up to him to really take that initiative, to be courageous enough to really, for him to talk about what has he done for the last 20 plus years representing New York 5. And I think that he's afraid that he'll be exposed. So if there is a group that's really open to it, we're ready for it. It's really up to just finding the right group of people who can sponsor this debate.
What kind of people could sponsor a debate?
Yeah, so they can't be a nonprofit.
Right.
So it has to be free. Right. So it has to be like it has to be a C4, has to It could be a political club. It could even be local news networks like New York One.
Right.
If they were to get their hands on this, they could do it too. Local Democratic clubs, if they could find a way to really promote it online, I think that'd be really good.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at the further follow-ups to that question. Someone asked, doesn't he have to? Doesn't he have to debate you? If he won't do it, will you start calling him out now?
When the time is right. I will call him out when the time is right. My biggest focus right now, in the meantime, because we're still so fresh in this crisis, I don't want to really undermine what people are going through right now.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult time for so many families. So, how many deaths have we had up to date? I think almost 60,000, if I'm not mistaken, in the U.S.
It's over 1,000 a day right now.
Yeah. So, the last thing we want to put on anyone's mind is we're putting on election first, because as political as this is, because even the coronavirus there's a lot of politics surrounding it. It's really about timing, and we are still some months away, but I assure you, as we get closer, midway through April, past April, we'll definitely make some noise.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a good place to wrap up. Thanks everyone for coming, and please check out Shan's website at shan2020.com. It's SHAN 2020.com. It has information on the mutual aid. You can donate through there. You can see all of Shan's positions. He has like 3 pages of tabbed policies and positions. I mean, he goes deep. So check it out. Any final words, Shan?
Yeah, thank you all for hopping on this call. It means a lot for you to be here. I know that it's not an easy time for so many. So even just taking an hour of your time to be part of this shows that we're in this together, and we're going to overcome this together. So thank you again. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'm always happy to have a chat. So yeah.
All right. Social media, Shan? Are you on the Twitters?
No, I'm never on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter on Shaniyat, SHANIYAT 2020. So
perfect. All right. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Shan.